I'm glad and honored to request our guest speaker for the day, Mr. Nikhil Arora, sir, to illume us by sharing his thoughts on role of education and digitization in building entrepreneurs, challenges, and future scope. Sir, please, you have the lead now.
Thank you, Arpit, and thank you, everybody at LNCT for welcoming me in such a humble and nice way. So, first of all, it's not every day that you get a chance to actually interact with 200 or so students and really, share both your learnings and actually learn perspectives from you all as well, right? I think, one thing I've learned generally is that in today's world, you actually need two sets of mentors, right? One is people who are older and more experienced than you, and one people who are just right about at your age, all of your students, because the world is changing so fast, right? There are just so many developments happening at technology level, at digitization level, at education level that that for a leader to stay connected with what's happening, it's very critical to have those two sets of mentors. So with that, I just wanted to kind of set up some context on the topic, right? I think we are looking at the role of education and digitization in entrepreneurship, but really stepping back to say, what is entrepreneurship, right? And there's so much passion and there's so much I would say excitement and desire for everybody to be an entrepreneur, but there are many definitions, right? And to start off at a very simplistic level, right? What is an entrepreneur, right? An entrepreneur is somebody who either looks at a problem which has not been solved, or they look at a problem which is being solved, but not the way it can be solved, much better and much innovatively, right? And essentially, when you think of entrepreneurship, you're dealing with two sets of uncertainties. One is the product uncertainty, which is basically what is that solution you're producing, or what is the service you're producing, which will solve it either very differently or much better than somebody else, right? And the second is the market uncertainty, where once you've figured out that this is the way to this is your solution, can you get it out in the market, right? Can you have customers discover it? Can you have customers use it? Can you have customers proactively recommend it, right? So at a very simplistic level, right, entrepreneurship is all about dealing with product uncertainty and market uncertainty. But what sits at the core of all this is something you have identified as a problem statement which either somebody's not solving or something you can solve better than somebody's always out doing there, right? So with that as a context to entrepreneurship, right? The two really, I would say, pillars on which entrepreneurship stands is really education and digitization, right? And the reason education is most important is because education kind of gives you that basic, right? If you think about you want to be a runner, right? So before you run, you need to learn to walk. Before you actually run, you need to jog a little bit, right? You have to go smaller distances. So education is that pillar which gives you, that kind of basic tenets of absorbing and understanding information. But there are also a lot of challenges happening right now in education system. If you see, especially now, especially in the COVID era, right? The biggest challenge now is remote learning and the disparity in access. Before everybody actually could get to physical classrooms, right? The current situation and for the foreseeable future, that disparity has really thrown a lot more challenge because not everybody actually has a physical device to be on, to have that access to education, right? Not everybody has internet access. Not everybody has stable power supply, right? So a large section of society who were generally getting educated now, are not really getting access to it, right? So there needs to be a collective effort, both from a government side and from the private sector side to, fix that. Secondly, I think, there is also a large dropout rates happening now in education than in the past. And that's because there is economic and financial pressures on many families right now, right? And that is forcing them to say, okay, I will have my children drop a year because we are just not able to either afford a gadget, or we have just not able to afford what's going on, or mental stress and so on, right? So I think that's a new set of challenge which has been thrown now. And third is, I think, on the teachers, right? I mean, on the professors. They've been doing a wonderful job of actually imparting education to all of you, right? But remember, many of them have actually not been trained to impart digital education. And think of it, right? If you're a doctor and you're doing a surgery, and your surgery is being viewed live on TV, this is what our professor and teachers are going through right now, right? Because as they're teaching, everybody in their houses are actually watching how that's happening, right? And it's not easy, right? I mean, it's kudos to the professor and teachers that they're doing this in an open forum, right? It's like a public display of what they're happening, and everybody has a view. This is right, this is wrong, right? So I think it's created a challenge both from a teacher's point of view, because they have been used to the physical teaching of coming in the classrooms and doing what the way was, and also from students to absorb a new digital way in that sense, right? So I think these are really, I would say, 3 to 4 big challenges which emerge now. But what's most important about education, I would say, is that it gives you the tools, and I would say develops your capacity to handle things which will come down in entrepreneurship later, right? So, for example, all of you may be studying different topics in college, and I can tell you half these topics you will never use in your life again. But what it teaches you is able to absorb new information, process new information. And that's what happens in entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship, every week, every month, the information you get changes from a customer point of view, from a market point of view, from a product point of view. So education really helps you able to absorb something very quickly, process something quickly, and react something quickly, right? Second is, I think, teamwork, right? In education environment, you get to form teams to do something, right? Whether it's a project or whether it's a class project and so on. And in entrepreneurship, right? Ultimately, you do work in teams, and you don't get a chance to learn to work in teams later on when you become an entrepreneur. So this is really the time you can learn how to work in teams, because think of successful entrepreneurs, right? Like, think of the teams of successful entrepreneurs. They normally always have somebody who's great at product. They always have somebody who's great at commercial, right? Business. Somebody who's perhaps good at maybe operations and managing, kind of the back end of the business, right? So most of the good successful startups you would see will have 2 to 3 founders. I would say any startup with one founder is bound to fail more often than anything, because you become a lonely planet, and unlikely that you will have all the skills. And also, it is a tough road, and you always need somebody to bounce off things, somebody to kind of sense check your thinking and your direction and so on, right? So education is the platform which really gives you that opportunity to actually test your team dynamics, learn your team dynamics, both on personality, both on skill set, and both in assessment. And also, what education teaches you is also what not to focus on, because a lot of times it's very easy for us to focus on what we need to do, but very hard to very hard to kind of focus on what you need to stop doing, right? And in that sense, education, during your education years, you will pick up a lot of topics, you will pick up a lot of subjects, but then you have to, ultimately it's about choices, right? So how making good tough choices. So overall, I think use this time while you're in the education system to really learn these aspects, which you can translate into entrepreneurship. But I think as a collective society, as a collective government efforts, as a collective partnership of public private partnership, I think some of the challenging around disparity in education, this digitization, while it's an opportunity, it's also creating a divide. And also, how do we help our teachers and sorry, somebody had muted me. How do we impart the right skilling and so on, right? So I think I've been asked to speak in Hindi, which I love to speak in Hindi also, which is wonderful, right? So thank you for saying right. So मैं थोड़ा सा उसको रिपीट करता हूँ एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप का, सो ताकि जो लोगों को इंग्लिश से ट्रांसलेट नहीं हो पाया ठीक से। सो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप जो होता है वो उसमें अनसर्टेनिटी बहुत ज़्यादा होती है। और अनसर्टेनिटी क्या होती है, एक आपकी प्रोडक्ट की होती है और एक आपकी मार्केट की होती है। आप एंटरप्रेन्योर इसलिए बनते हैं क्योंकि आपको कुछ सॉल्व कर रहे हैं जो कोई और सॉल्व अभी नहीं कर रहा, या आप किसी से बेहतर कर सकते हैं। और इसमें आपको दो चीज़ें करनी होती हैं, एक आपको यूनिक प्रोडक्ट बनाना होता है और एक आपको उसकी मार्केट करनी होती है। तो इसमें जो होता है दोनों में अनसर्टनिटीज बड़ी हाई होती हैं, क्योंकि आपको पता नहीं होता कि प्रोडक्ट ठीक है या मार्केट ठीक है। और वही अनसर्टनिटी जो है वो हम एजुकेशन सिस्टम से सीख सकते हैं, क्योंकि जब पढ़ रहे होते हैं तो आप उसमें जो जो नॉलेज आपको मिल रही होती है वो अनसर्टनिटी से डील करने के लिए मिल रही होती है। आपको नए सब्जेक्ट्स मिलते हैं तो आप उसको कैसे प्रोसेस करते हैं, आपको टीम वर्क अपना कैसे लोगों से लोगों के साथ काम करना है, छोटी टीम्स बनानी हैं, बड़ी टीम्स बनानी हैं, कैसे एक के स्किल से कॉम्प्लीमेंट करने हैं। और तीसरा ये है कि आपको अपने जो टीचर्स हैं उनका बेनिफिट ज़रूर लेना चाहिए, क्योंकि आपके टीचर्स आपके ज़िंदगी भर के मेंटर्स हैं। क्योंकि मैं देखूँ तो मैंने आज तक मेरे सारे जो स्कूल के टीचर्स हैं, कॉलेज के टीचर्स हैं, और मेरे जो बॉसेज रहे हैं, मैं उनसे सबसे कनेक्ट करता हूँ, क्योंकि कभी भी आपको कुछ डाउट होता है तो वो आपके हमेशा प्योर और सिंसियर एडवाइजर्स होंगे, क्योंकि उनका कोई इसमें इंसेंटिव नहीं है अदर देन आप सक्सेसफुल हों। तो वो रिलेशनशिप जो है ना एजुकेशन की जो होती है, वो जैसे कहते हैं सबसे प्योरेस्ट रिलेशनशिप होती है। और चैलेंजेस के हिसाब से अभी देखें तो आई थिंक सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज अभी यही आ रहा है कि एक तो डिस्पैरिटी है, क्योंकि हर जगह इंटरनेट एक्सेस नहीं है, हर किसी के पास फ़ोन या आईपैड या लैपटॉप नहीं है, तो कनेक्टिविटी जिनके पास नहीं है उनकी एजुकेशन थोड़ी स्लो हो रही है। दूसरा आई थिंक ड्रॉप आउट रेशो बढ़ रहा है, क्योंकि कहीं फैमिलीज अफोर्ड नहीं कर पा रही। और तीसरा हमारे जो टीचर्स हैं, हमारे जो प्रोफेसर्स हैं, मैं पहले इंग्लिश में भी एग्जांपल दे रहा था कि उनको बहुत कूडोज देना चाहिए, क्योंकि देखें वो आज की डेट में पढ़ा रहे हैं, भाई पूरी दुनिया उनको देख रही है। ओपन स्क्रीन पे जैसे होता है ना कि कॉन्सर्ट हो रहा है और पूरी दुनिया उनको देख रही है, वो पढ़ा रहे हैं, जो कि बहुत बड़ी बात है। क्योंकि अगर आप एग्जाम्पल देखें, अगर डॉक्टर का भी सर्जरी कर रहा होता है तो दरवाजा बंद करके करता है, यहाँ पे टीचर्स हैं उनके पूरे दरवाजे खुले हैं, क्योंकि डिजिटल में सब कुछ कोई देख रहा है। और हमारे इंडिया में ये बहुत बार होता है कि हर किसी के पास कुछ ना कोई एडवाइस देने का होता है। मैं कभी अपने बच्चे की टीचर को देख रहा होता हूँ तो कहता हूँ अरे ऐसे करना चाहिए, वैसे करना चाहिए। एंड ये जो काम है, मैं कह रहा हूँ सबसे मुश्किल काम है जो टीचर्स कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि ओपन फोरम में वो पढ़ा रहे हैं, बच्चों को एंगेज करके रख रहे हैं। तो आपको भी बहुत एज ए स्टूडेंट अप्रिशिएट करना चाहिए, क्योंकि आप समझें कि उन्होंने अपनी लाइफ टाइम में भी ये ट्रेनिंग मेथड नहीं सीखा, राइट? किसी ने भी नहीं सीखा, हमने कॉर्पोरेट में भी सीखा नहीं कि हम 24 घंटे सिर्फ लैपटॉप पर बैठ के जूम पे बिजनेस करेंगे। तो इस जो चेंज आया है उसमें एक चैलेंज भी आया है, क्योंकि हम कैसे टीचर्स की भी ट्रेनिंग अच्छी करें और स्टूडेंट्स को भी कैसे एंगेज करके रखें, क्योंकि बड़ा मुश्किल होता है कॉन्स्टेंटली एंगेज रहना। सो एजुकेशन का ये मैं रोल कहूँगा। डिजिटाइजेशन का है सबसे बड़ा रोल एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप में होता है, कि आज की डेट में आपको छोटा सा अगर आपका आइडिया है तो आप ज़्यादा पैसे खर्च करे बगैर वो आइडिया टेस्ट कर सकते हैं। जो पहले होता था कि मैंने एक प्रोडक्ट बना लिया और मैंने एक सर्विस बना ली, अब मुझे जाके इतने कस्टमर्स ढूंढने हैं। आपको मैं एग्जांपल देता हूं कि आपने अगर आज कुछ प्रोडक्ट सोचा है या कुछ सर्विस सोची है, आप कल ही उसकी वेबसाइट बना लें और उसमें प्रमोट करना शुरू कर दें। आपको एक हफ्ते में पता लग जाएगा किस तरीके के कस्टमर्स इंटरेस्टेड हैं आपके प्रोडक्ट में या नहीं, और किस तरीके के प्राइस पॉइंट्स वो आपको पे करना चाहते हैं, और किस तरीके की सेटिस्फैक्शन हो रही है उनको उस प्रोडक्ट से। सो एक हफ्ते के अंदर आप एक ना अपना आइडिया टेस्ट कर सकते हैं, और इसमें ज़्यादा खर्चा भी नहीं है, बहुत कम खर्चा है। आज की डेट में आप सोचें डोमेन या वेबसाइट बनाने में कुछ नहीं, 500,000 रुपये, कुछ ज़्यादा नहीं लगते। तो ये जो डिजिटाइजेशन का ये जो रोल है ना एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप में, जो लोगों को महीने लगते थे, साल लगते थे, अब वो एक हफ्ते में अपना टेस्ट कर सकते हैं। क्योंकि कई बार हमारे दिमाग में आइडिया होता है, बट हम सोचते हैं ये आइडिया बहुत अच्छा है, लेकिन मार्केट में वो आइडिया की कोई अहमियत नहीं होती। तो हम इसी तरीके से टेस्ट कर सकते हैं। दूसरा, आई थिंक आज की डेट में जो कोलैबोरेशन टूल्स जो हो गए हैं डिजिटाइजेशन से, राइट, अगर आप यहाँ पे बैठे हैं, आप कोई यूएस में आपका कोई कस्टमर बैठा है, या यूएस में आपका कोई मेंटर बैठा है, या कोई यूके में कोई बैठा है, या कोई किसी और कंट्री में बैठा है, अब आप किसी से भी किसी टाइम भी कॉन्स्टेंटली कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं और आप अपना बिजनेस नॉट ओनली इंटरनेशनल लेवल पे सोच सकते हैं, बट एडवाइस भी आप किसी से ले सकते हैं। तो ये डिजिटाइजेशन से जो आपका जो इकोसिस्टम है, मेंटरशिप का, कस्टमर का, पार्टनर्स का, वो बहुत बढ़ गया है। तो आप सोचें कि प्री डिजिटाइजेशन में मुझे किसी का नंबर चाहिए होता था, मुझे किसी का कॉन्टैक्ट चाहिए होता था, मुझे किसी से फिर इंट्रोडक्शन लेना होता था और सो ऑन। आज की डेट में आप किसी को कहीं भी ढूंढ लें, लिंक्डइन पे ढूंढ लें, कहीं भी ढूंढ लें, आप कनेक्ट करें और अगले दिन आपको उनके साथ वीडियो कॉल हो रही है, और आपकी जो लर्निंग है वही जो सालों में होती थी वो महीने में हो रही है। और ये पैंडेमिक की साइड अगर आप देखें तो अब जो डिजिटल स्किल्स जो है ना, इससे एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी भी आपकी बहुत बढ़ गई है। आज की डेट में अगर आपके पास डिजिटल स्किल्स हैं तो जो आप 20 to 30% चांसेस आपकी एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी की बढ़ गई हैं, क्योंकि एकदम से जो 6 महीने में, जो पिछले 6 साल में नहीं हुआ, 6 महीने में डिजिटाइजेशन का एक्सेलरेशन आया है। दूसरा, अगर आप एंटरप्रेन्योर को देखें, जो एंटरप्रेन्योर ऑनलाइन में जिसने कभी कोई अपना ऑनलाइन बिजनेस किया है और जो भी किया है, वो 50% मोर प्रॉफिटेबल है ऑफलाइन बिजनेस से। और आप पैंडेमिक में देखें, आपको परफेक्ट एग्जांपल मिलेगा कि जो 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 शॉप्स थी जिनका कोई डिजिटल कनेक्ट नहीं था, एकदम से उनका बिजनेस बंद हो गया। और जिनका थोड़ा बहुत डिजिटल कनेक्ट था, अब जैसे मैं आपको अपना एग्जांपल देता हूँ कि अब मेरे 1 किलोमीटर दूर अगर मेरे पास कोई मेडिसिन शॉप थी जिसके बारे में मुझे पता नहीं था, और अगर वो डिजिटल नहीं थी, और लॉकडाउन के टाइम मेरे को, अगर मैं उनको सर्च कर रहा हूँ, अगर वो ऑनलाइन नहीं आ रहे तो मेरे को पता नहीं वो हैं वहाँ पे। तो जो डिस्कवरेबिलिटी है, ताकि आपको लोग ढूंढ लें कि आप एग्जिस्ट करते हो, और डिस्कवरेबिलिटी अपने ही एरिया में नहीं, कहीं दूर भी, राइट। आज की डेट में मुझे कुछ मास्क खरीदने हैं और यहाँ मास्क खत्म हो गए हैं, दिल्ली या चंडीगढ़ उसमें मिल रहे हैं, मुझे कोई शिप कर सकता है, मुझे कैसे पता लगेगा। तो ये जो एस्पेक्ट जो डिजिटाइजेशन का है, ये बहुत एक्सेलरेट हो गया है, और इससे बिजनेसेस का पोटेंशियल बहुत बढ़ गया। और अगर आप एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप का सोचें तो आपकी अपॉर्चुनिटी अब बहुत बढ़ गई है, क्योंकि अब हर कोई डिजिटाइजेशन पे आ गया है। और अगर ई कॉमर्स में आप देखें तो कम से कम 14 to 15 मिलियन जॉब्स अब क्रिएट होने वाली हैं, नई जॉब्स लॉजिस्टिक्स में हो गई, ई कॉमर्स में हो गई। और जो फ्रीलांसर्स जो होते थे, जो पहले हम कहते थे कि भाई पार्ट टाइम लोग हैं, यहाँ पे काम कर रहे हैं, वहाँ काम कर रहे हैं, वो भी डिजिटाइजेशन के बाद उस तरीके की जो जॉब्स हैं वो बहुत बढ़ जाएंगी। तो जो डिजिटाइजेशन जो है, आपको वेदर आप एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप देखें या आप एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी देखें, ऑलमोस्ट अब वो मस्ट हो गई हैं। पहले चॉइस होती थी कि अरे ये ठीक है, अगर आता है तो ठीक है, नहीं आता तो नहीं है। बट अगर आज की डेट में आप देखें तो ऑलमोस्ट अगर आपको नहीं आता तो आपकी जॉब्स की चांसेस बहुत कम है, आपकी एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप सक्सेसफुल चांसेस बहुत कम है। और ये सीखना बहुत ईजी है। जैसे मैं आपको एग्जांपल देता हूँ, हमने अपने टाइम में, अभी कोविड के टाइम में ही हमने गोडैडी एकेडमी शुरू की थी। और गोडैडी एकेडमी का कॉन्सेप्ट यही था कि लोगों को ये समझ नहीं आता था कि यह वेबसाइट क्या होती है, या डोमेन क्या होता है, मैं किस तरीके की मैं अपनी ऑनलाइन प्रेजेंस बनाऊं। सो हमने और उसमें आप डिजिटल मार्केटिंग कैसे करते हैं, आप ऑनलाइन सेल्स कैसे करते हैं, तो हमने इसमें छोटे छोटे मॉड्यूल्स बनाए थे। एंड हमारी ये इच्छा थी कि लोग सीख लें, क्योंकि एक तो डिजिटल वर्ल्ड इतनी बड़ी है कि लोग थोड़े उसमें घबरा जाते हैं कि इतना सारा मटेरियल आउट है, मेरे को क्या पढ़ना चाहिए, मेरे को क्या नहीं पढ़ना चाहिए। तो इस हिसाब से ये जो सिंपल सिंपल चीज़ें हैं ना, अगर आप डिजिटाइजेशन को देखें तो इतनी कॉम्प्लेक्स नहीं है, क्योंकि अगर आप मैं पहले भी बोल रहा था कि जो मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग टू डिसाइड इज व्हाट नॉट टू डू। क्या नहीं करना चाहिए इज हार्डर टू डिसाइड वर्सेस क्या करना चाहिए। सो अगर आप लिस्ट बना लेंगे आपको क्या नहीं करना चाहिए, वो आपकी एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप में हो, आपकी डिजिटाइजेशन में हो, आपकी एजुकेशन में भी हो, तो आप जो फोकस करेंगे। एप्पल की मैं स्टोरी बताता हूँ। बहुत साल पहले जब एप्पल सक्सेसफुल कंपनी नहीं था, तो उन्होंने एक रूल अप्लाई किया था, उसको कहते हैं 30% रूल। और वो 30% रूल ये था कि एप्पल बहुत सारे प्रोडक्ट्स बनाए जा रहा था और वो किसी में भी सक्सेसफुल नहीं हो रहा था। और उसके बाद स्टीव जॉब्स ने डिसाइड किया कि मैं यही 30% चीज़ों पे फोकस करूंगा। और वो 30% चीज़ें थी, वो उनका आईपॉड था, आईफोन था, आईपैड था, और जो सारे जो रिसोर्सेज हैं वो उन 30% के पीछे लग गए। तो आप सोचेंगे जहां एक प्रोडक्ट के पीछे 1 लोग काम कर रहे थे या 5 लोग काम कर रहे थे, अब 50 काम कर रहे हैं, तो जो उसका सक्सेस रेट है बहुत बहुत बढ़ जाता है। तो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप में भी और आपकी लाइफ में भी द हार्डेस्ट थिंग और होता है कि क्या नहीं करना, और जो नहीं आप कर रहे हैं तो उसका मतलब आपकी एनर्जी खुल रही है, आपके रिसोर्सेज खुल रहे हैं, आपका एफर्ट खुल रहा है, और जो एक या दो चीज़ों के पीछे आप जा रहे हैं आप उसमें बहुत सक्सेसफुल हो सकते हैं। मैंने पैंडेमिक के टाइम एक छोटी सी ई बुक भी लिखी थी, वो किंडल पे अवेलेबल है, द रेडिकल शिफ्ट्स ऑफ सटल चेंज। और इसमें मैंने लिखा हुआ था कि क्या क्या इंडस्ट्रीज जो हैं डिजिटाइजेशन के बाद बदली हैं, लीडरशिप लेवल पे क्या क्या बदला है, एम्प्लॉय लेवल पे क्या क्या बदला है, गवर्नमेंट लेवल पे क्या क्या बदला है। तो मैं इसका लिंक भेजूंगा, आप उसको अगर पढ़ें तो उसमें थोड़ा सा और मैंने डीपर पर्सपेक्टिव भेजा है। बट ओवरऑल जो टॉपिक entrepreneurship and the role of digitization and role of education, I think अगर आप देखें तो it has almost both are the most important pillars, because education आपको basic grounding देगी कि आप कैसे नई information absorb करें और कैसे process करें और कैसे react करें। डिजिटाइजेशन एक प्लेटफॉर्म है जो आपको बहुत तेज स्पीड देगा, एक्सेलरेशन देगा। और इन सब को छोड़ के अल्टीमेटली एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप इज ऑल अबाउट पीपल, एंड अल्टीमेटली एक बिगेस्ट थिंग you all have to develop is about working with people, learning to deal with people who are not your kind because that's the hardest thing, but that's life. And most of the people who succeed or fail is because they always look for people of their own kind, which you should always, अपने जैसे लोगों से हमेशा टीम में होना चाहिए, पर दूसरे लोग भी होना चाहिए, बिकॉज देन आप बेनिफिट कर रहे हैं दूसरों की स्ट्रेंथ से भी। So with that, I wanted to thank everybody. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद इसके लिए। छोटा टाइम था, बट आप अगर कोई भी और फॉलो अप करना चाहते हैं तो मैं इंस्टाग्राम हैंडल में am very active, nikhil.official. Please come there, and I keep talking about entrepreneurship, digitization, all the links of what I write and what I talk about. So please do that, and thank you to the institution, and big thank you to all the teachers and professors, because I can tell you it's the most difficult job right now than I have ever seen. So please, and also students, please thank them, because they're doing a brilliant job.
Thank you so much, sir. We actually have a couple of questions also for you, which we will be asking. Okay, so we would request you to kindly, be with us. And actually, your words were so remarkable and influential, if I say, because frankly speaking, on my personal note, and on behalf of LNCT University and all the youths out here, I would say that, because of the pandemic also, you can say, the budding entrepreneurs in this country, this has been some kind of a hype or boom in this country all of a sudden. So because this is some, as you talked about the disparity, the dropout ratio and all these things. So obviously these things are affecting, because people, I would say the faculties who are physically teaching, the senior faculties, all of a sudden they were transitioned to use such digital platforms, and they were not able to access such things, such transition. But obviously everyone was a part of this. We were all together in this, the entire world, not just our nation. So on that note, I would just ask you one question on my personal note, so that how can GoDaddy uplift or can empower youths and today's education? If I ask separately for, the nation, because obviously, as I said, we are getting so many budding entrepreneurs in this country nowadays. So how can GoDaddy help actually in that way?
Yes, no, thank you for the question. I think, first of all, we launched this GoDaddy Academy, right? And I'll encourage people to just go on it, because we have free courses on digitization, and that's a good start, because a lot of times people are looking for which courses should I take, and we have put on very selective courses, right? For example, अगर आपको अपना domain name ढूंढना है, right? It should be a 14-letter domain name or 8-letter domain name or 10-letter domain name. It's a very simple fact, but it is a mind-boggling thing, right? Because you can have sleepless nights कि मैं उसको क्या, because आप सोचते हो अब तो जिंदगी भर ये नाम पड़ जाएगा. So I need to think hard, right? But we give specific knowledge about what kind of business are you and what kind of domain name should you select, because it depends. राइट, कि आपको किस तरीके के डोमेन नेम आपके लिए सूट करेगा. नॉर्मली टेंडेंसी लोगों की होती है कि मैं अपने नाम का ले लूं. Now that is good in some times and not good in other times, depending on your business. So GoDaddy Academy is one thing we have done. We've also done a lot of seminars on training professional skilling. Even before COVID, we had skilled over 1,000 uh, uh, students all over the country, especially in tier 2, tier 3 towns. So we continue to do skilling programs with for students, and we will encourage students. And if students have projects, right, they reach out to happy to they reach out to us, because we want to encourage the products. And if they have some idea which they want to test, we are happy to encourage those, because we want innovations coming from entrepreneurship, right? From the academy to actual physical training we have done, and encouraging students to kind of throw ideas at us, and we are happy to support in some form of structure those. But we've been doing this now for last 2-3 years. We've been also doing at grassroots schools level, where we go into schools which are not that well funded. So we are obviously out there and helping those schools raise funds. We've even in pandemic and before that, our focus has been in education a lot, because we believe, like for any country, right? Agar education system fail ho gaya, to country fail ho jayegi. And I firmly believe in that. And and it really troubles me, when I talk to people to say यार कि देखते हैं कि हमारे बच्चे अब स्कूल नहीं जा पा रहे because हमारे पास एक ही फोन है. I mean, you hear that a lot, right? I mean, especially in the masses, के भाई एक फोन है और क्लासेस एक ही फोन पे होती हैं, and वही फोन उनके पेरेंट्स जॉब पे लेके जाते हैं, right? So we also do programs where we are doing fundraising to provide equipment, to students, so they can continue their studies.
Thank you so much, sir, for that answer. And obviously, the theme that was for today, you talked about the challenges and the future scope as well, and absolutely your words were so remarkable, as I said, and influential. And I hope that the students, the faculties, and all of us would be enlightened with your thoughts. So thank you so much. And now we are now up for our question and answer session, as I said, sir. And for that, I request Mr. Mukesh Narula, sir, to kindly take the liberty to moderate the same.
Thank you. And good afternoon, a warm welcome from LNCT University, Mr. Verma.
Hello. Sir, your voice is breaking a little, sir.
Is it audible now? Is it audible now?
So there's a whole lot of disturbance at the back.
Hello. Good afternoon, Mr.
Go
Verma.
ahead, continue, sir.
वॉइस आ रही है मगर बहुत ज्यादा लाउडली है और समझ में नहीं आ रहा है.
Just one minute.
Sir, are you still connected, Mukesh, sir?
Is it audible now?
Yes, sir. Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. So good afternoon, Mr. Arora, and warm welcome from LNCT University once again. So you are a renowned name in the field of digital India. So personally, I would like to know, how do you feel about it?
Thank you for your comments and being generous in that. I think my passion is always about enabling small business and entrepreneurs, and I think the rest is just a journey. And if people acknowledge something, that's a gift. Otherwise, it's always about kind of just helping the ecosystem. And I feel like I just feel blessed to be in the role to be able to do that, right? Because when we think of small businesses, and if you are able to bring to life somebody's dream, through even small products like domains and websites and so on, right? You feel so great that you've done, transformational work, right? And I think that's just a gift of the work we do.
Yeah. So as you know that India is now very strongly going towards the total digitalization, and the traditional people have their own mindset towards this. They have already decided their own pros and cons regarding this digitalization, which may or may not be corrected. So students also have many queries in their mind, which they send us time to time. So if you allow me, may I take few of them so that their query can be resolved and we can clarify their thoughts on this.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'll go with the first one, which is what does digital transportation transformation really means for today's entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think, I take it to the very simplistic level, right? I think digital transformation is very subjective to each business on its own life cycle, right? So I think of it, and I was talking earlier, right, to keep it simple, right? If you've never been digital, right, the best thing to think about is, okay, how do I build my online presence, which is, my domain, my website, my online commerce store, and maybe integrate with social media, because it's important to have the integration with social media, and then small things about selling and marketing, right? And so I would always say is digital transformation is subjective to your business, uh, current state of your business. If you've been never digitized, go small, go simple, learn, and then scale. Don't get everything in one go, because it can be overwhelming and can be very discouraging and can be very expensive, right? So I think just go small modular approaches, where you're just building small pieces together, right? But end state, I think digital transformation ultimately should help support your business, because I think digitization for the sake of digitization doesn't make sense, right? It is for ultimately, or one has to just remember, what are we there in the business for, right? If you're selling, a glass of water, then you're in the business of selling a glass of water, right? If you're selling a cup, your business is selling cup, and that's what should matter, right? And how can you help sell that better to your customers, right? How can you help them better, faster to your customers? And digitization should help. A lot of people go digitization for the sake of it, because hey, I'm everybody on social media, so I need to be on social media. Like, and I'll give you an example. Everybody says I need to be on Facebook, I need to be on Instagram, I need to be on Twitter, I need to be on LinkedIn, I need to be everywhere, but you don't. You can only go in one or two, that's fine. But excel at the one and be there in the one where your customers are there, right? So I think digital transformation is define your current state, go small, go simple, and build upon that.
Right, very true. So it should be very focused approach on social media, and we should choose a simple one and one or two limited things through which we can reach to our customer. That should be the focused area now. The next one is how is business giants like GoDaddy moving towards creating Atmanirbhar Bharat? Means, what is your roadmap towards making the dream of our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, to make the Atmanirbhar Bharat? So, where do you see yourself or GoDaddy in that roadmap?
Yeah, I think we've been very proactive in that. I'll give you two examples, right? During the lockdown period, we had an initiative, vocal for local, right? So we created a campaign on Keto to fund for people, for small businesses, Indian small businesses, to able to raise funds if they are in trouble, and they had and we got all the fees waived for them. So a lot of time businesses, small businesses, they don't have access to money from banks or capital markets, because that's how the system is. And if they're in trouble for 2-3 months, they need to keep their people employed, they need to continue to kind of maintain the business, but cash flow is not coming out. Where do they go? So we created this campaign, vocal for local, where if you're a small business, you can go start a campaign and get your fundraising without paying any fees. And that was one step we took towards local for vocal. And then the other one, we encourage a lot of people to also to look at .in, because if you look at the websites, right, everybody thinks about .com, and we obviously encourage people to choose what they feel is good for them. But we have been also talking about .in, right? That if you're starting a business in India for India, think about .in, because it's nationalistic, it's your own, and why not, right? Because why should we think about only com, just because it's been around for long, right? What is the difference? There's actually no difference. And if you're calling .in, actually it's giving you your local identity. Everybody will know you're an Indian business, and we are the largest supporter and market share leader right now on .in, right? So all our campaigns also, we have MS Dhoni as a brand ambassador, so we've created some campaigns with him, all focused on .in, which is all about Atmanirbhar.
Yes. And .in अपना सा भी लगता है.
बिल्कुल, बिल्कुल जी.
So as far as e-business or digitalization of business is concerned, how student can climb business ladder to become entrepreneur? Means how we should start towards this?
So the question being the journey towards entrepreneurship, or
Through digitalization.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of digitalization right now, right? I think I'm sharing the example, right? In today's world, if you have an idea today, I'll give you an example. One of the large retailers from the US, when they were thinking about going global, they didn't know which country to go first. And so what they did was they created these websites in different countries, and put different products of their own on these websites. And to find out where the most amount of demand will come, instead of doing a research and saying, Acha, India's population is this, and Indonesia's population, they said, why don't we actually build a real online presence store and let customers tell us where the demand is. And based on that, they were able to select which countries to go first, because whichever countries had more demand, they would come to the website. You can measure, right, how much traffic is coming on your website, how many people are clicking what kind of products on your website, and how many people are, kind of leaving some feedback for you, or inquiring, or saying, I want to order this. When can you deliver? So you can do a lot of data now by just going online and creating a digital store, right? You don't need the physical store element. So I think in that sense, digitization has accelerated your learning curve and your execution curve by 6 years, right? Because it would take you 4 or 5 years to figure out what will go wrong. Now you can do it in 6 months. So in that sense, it's as simple as that, right? And the other example I gave was, collaborating with anybody in the world now through digitization, because you don't need to be physically in the country. You don't need to know them physically in the country. All you need to do is just connect with them and request them, and you could have a conversation happening like this next day.
Yes, correct. So in general, as a startup or as an entrepreneur, we have basically two small type, that is micro and macro business environment, which is in concern. And if we go for conversion of that traditional business to a e-commerce business or a digitalized business, what are the major factors we should concentrate on?
So I think, in terms of business, there's a freelancer, there's a one-person business. Micro businesses are obviously smaller, and the small businesses are a little bit more advanced, right? So I think the easiest thing is to go simple in all these three ones. I always say, keep the technology simple. Technology is here to enable you, not to overwhelm you or disable you, right? So I think if you're a freelancer or a micro small business who's never been online, right, I think just go with the basics, right? About like, how can people find what you sell? How can people order online what you sell, and how can you deliver to them logistically once they order online, in that sense, right? So I think we encourage, we have a large community of web designers and resellers who are really people who help these micro small businesses, because they need to understand what package should I buy, and so on, right? So I think the best way is to reach out to one of these experts who are there to help you, and they don't charge a lot at all. And they can give you their years of experience. The other place, from a GoDaddy perspective, we have a 24/7 customer care team, which speaks many languages. And, if you don't know what you're starting off, you just reach out to us and we will able to guide you that you are a certain type of a business. Here's what you should do. And kind of, and here's what you should not do, right? In that sense. So I think, especially the micro offline businesses who have never been online, right? They need some help. They need some support. And that's why, we have this GoDaddy Academy also, where we have tools and articles and resources about, if you're in a certain industry, these are the things you should consider if you're going online for the first time.
Okay. And you know that there is a big gap between whatever is being implemented by industry and academia. So how entrepreneurship or student or educational organizations can help in building a bridge between academia and industry? Any suggestion on?
I think the biggest thing I would say is, encourage a lot of practical experience, because what's happened traditionally in our system is that, academically we are very sound, but practical experience is really very little. And the more we can add practical projects where we're dealing with real life situation, real business, business situations, the faster the students will learn, because otherwise, when they get out of school or college, it's all been theory. And then suddenly they need to translate that theory to application. And that's sometimes very difficult, right? Because it works great on a textbook, but sometimes when you get out, the textbook theory has different variants and dimensions and elements to it. So I would say, the more we put in practical experience into the curriculum, into the academics, the faster the students will be prepared for entrepreneurship, and also celebrate failures. I think our just culturally, right? I mean, I think failures never been looked upon well, like in academics and even in real life, right? And so the more we can create a system of celebrating failures, because if somebody has failed, but because they've tried something new or innovative, it's a good thing, right? Because that's going to further encourage, right? 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs fail, but then more likely they'll come back and then succeed at some time. And so, but that you develop the mental resilience of being able to, fail, I think. And so celebrating failure is a big part.
So industry should also step forward towards educational institutions. And
Certainly. I think, offering internships, offering projects, offering exposure, because, unless industry does that, we take interns every year, right? We put them in projects so they can learn and they can ultimately help us and help themselves. And I think that's the best way, right? Because you put them in real situations. Just being in that situation helps them learn, right? Because when you see, oh, this works like this, I thought it worked like that, right? And then a lot of time people have this perception when you're in a college or a student, and when you get out, realize, no, this is very, very different. So definitely, right, industry has a big role to play.
so glad to know your views on this. So moving forward, where do we see LNCT University and GoDaddy coming together on a single platform to build up the entrepreneurs and making the Atmanirbhar Bharat project a grand success? So where do you see yourself, or what we can do collectively?
Yeah, so we obviously are in the space of helping entrepreneurs come online, grow online, right? And so any projects where we can help support students if they have an idea in this space to drive small businesses to come online, right? Or ideas around websites, or ideas around domains, or idea about e-commerce, and so on, right? So one is, we're happy to look at internships. Second is, happy to consider that somebody has an idea and they want to propose to us, and if we're happy to help test that idea, because then we are able to encourage them and also gain for us and for the ecosystem, right? And third, if there are forums like this, we can look at it in the future, which helps share knowledge and creates a good dialogue, both for teachers, students, industry. I think that would be third one, because that, I think, always creates, and things like hackathon, or things like some open day, half a day. We can come up with a problem statement and give it to your students, and then they come up with some ideas, and then we do a judge, and we select the best ideas and give some kind of reward. For example, we could give a few free websites to say, okay, here's here's the prize, right? We will give you free websites, build a prototype, right? And we'll help you test it, right? Kind of stuff, right? So that's the first step for an entrepreneur. Now they get something to test, which is real and they can touch and feel, right? So we could look at some of these options.
Yeah, that will surely help us for the students to get with the pace of industry. And for this, we'll surely be in connect with you. And I know you have taken some time out of your busy schedule. So last but not the least, we would also like you to join our advisory board also, so that we can get your experience and knowledge for our entrepreneurship, budding entrepreneurship, which they can utilize in building their startups. So I would like to take the privilege of this platform to request you also to be a member of our advisory board also. The official communication, we would send it to you also. And whatever you have suggested, it is really a wonderful suggestion for our students, the budding entrepreneurs, and for our teachers also. And to come together as an industry and academia, whatever suggestion you have given, we will keep on doing that, and we will seek your uh, participation in this also, in all the three vertical which you have suggested. So I think we'll be getting those supports from your busy schedule, or maybe whoever you appoint for that from your esteemed organization who can help us out in this. So this is from our end. Thank you so much for the time you have provided for this, and we'll send you our official communication on that. So just as a recognition of the or acknowledgement of that. So I think there will be no problem in being a part of the advisory board of this EDIAC, which is Entrepreneurship Development Cell of LNCT University. So
Thank you, and thank you for hosting. And I know there's a lot of students who had questions and so on. So please, if you need to drop me, nikhilora.official is my Instagram handle. Just send me something there, and I'm happy to send responses.
We have few more questions, but keeping the time in mind, we will send it to your official handle, and where they can get the answer also.
Super. All right. Thank you all, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for answering those questions so spontaneously. We are now towards the end of our today's ceremony, and we are grateful to you, sir, for giving us your precious time taking out from your valuable occupied schedule. The LNCT University and group of colleges is thankful for your exquisite presence. Now I would like to request Dr. Amit Bodh Upadhyay, sir, the OSD of LNCT group of colleges, to please felicitate our guest speaker, Mr. Nikhil Arora, sir, by presenting him a certificate and a memento as a token of appreciation on behalf of LNCT University.
Thank you. Thank you. It is our great pleasure to felicitate Shri Nikhil Arora ji. We express our sincere gratitude for taking out your valuable time to enlighten our audience and students with your wisdom. Your valuable insights would surely help us in times to come. We appreciate your significant contribution towards entrepreneurship talk organized by EDIAC LNCT University. हमें विश्वास है अरोरा जी कि आपके मिशन के अनुरूप जिसमें आप बडिंग एंटरप्रेन्योर को सपोर्ट करते हैं, वैसे ही LNCTians के उज्जवल भविष्य में भी ऐसी सपोर्ट करते रहेंगे। और आपने जो कुछ सफलता के मंत्र बताए हैं, जिसमें टीम वर्क है और क्या नहीं करना है और क्या करना है, और जो सोशल प्रॉब्लम्स हैं और जो डॉक्टर और टीचर्स के लिए आपने जो बातें कही हैं वो निश्चित रूप से ना केवल स्टूडेंट्स के लिए अपितु टीचर्स के लिए भी काफ़ी मोटिवेशन का कार्य करेंगी। धन्यवाद। थैंक यू।
Thank you so much, sir. The certificate and the memento will be sent through post on the preferred postal address. Now, to sum up, I would now like to invite Mr. Virat Jaiswal, sir, the director of the executive committee, to please take the privilege of giving us a word of thanks and wrap up this session now.
Thank you, Arpit. I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you are.
Thank you, Arpit. Once C.K. Prahlad said, if your aspirations are not greater than your resources, you're not an entrepreneur. On behalf of LNCT University and the whole team of EDIIC, I, Virat Jaiswal, would like to express my sincere thanks to Mr. Nikhil Arora, founder and vice president of GoDaddy India, to his efforts towards sharing his views in today's dialogue on role of education and digitalization in budding entrepreneurs. Mr. Arora is the role model for the young and upcoming entrepreneurs. We also want to give our best wishes to Mr. Arora for the debut of his first ebook, The Shift of Radical Changes, around the theme of navigating everyday changes in businesses, work, and leadership. Actually, I got through a link and I got to know that Mr. Sir also said that he wrote an ebook, first ebook. I observed that his ebook is based on observation of Mr. Arora as a business leader and a specialist on corporate responses to the pandemic. In this new normal, business model are drastically changed and backed by digital transformation, which is the need of the hour. We expect Mr. Nikhil Arora that his wisdom and knowledge will surely help to our students to climb the ladder of entrepreneurship in future. I also like to thank you, all the dignitaries, faculties, HOD, students, and all the stakeholders who directly and indirectly made this program successful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Nikhil, sir, now I would like to have your permission to wrap up this session, to end this session.
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
And thank you so much for being a part of this today's webinar, sir. We are grateful to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.